into the FBI's search of former President Trump's home in Florida, including just how much evidence is required to obtain a search warrant in a high-profile case such as this one. Let us bring in CBS News security and law enforcement analyst and former FBI agent James Gagliano to talk more about this. James, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Vlad and Anne-Marie.
So, obviously, there's never been, this is unprecedented, a search warrant executed at the home of a former president of the United States. But I'll ask you the same question that I asked our correspondents, which is, to have such an unprecedented move, what kind of evidence and how likely would it be that a judge would look at that evidence and say, you have enough to go and do something which we know is going to be cataclysmic as far as the political world and the media world sees it?
I think cataclysmic is absolutely a good description for this. Look, this is truly unprecedented. So we know that there have only been 46 presidents, and this is the first one, to my knowledge, where a federal search warrant was executed. And look, Vlad, I would have thought under the circumstances that a subpoena would have been appropriate. However, I have not seen the underlying fact patterns that the federal magistrate had to base a decision that there was enough probable cause, which are like reasonable grounds to expect that a crime, one of 4,500 different federal violations that could potentially be. And in this instance, we know it's attached to the National Archives and Records Administration, taking some 15 boxes away from Mar-a-Lago a number of months ago, and then referring this case to the Justice Department. This is unprecedented. And for this to be, it was a knock and announce warrant, but for federal agents to show up at a former president's residence in search of records that might be attached to a potential violation of federal crime, I think we're all still reeling with this news.
Okay, so I have a two-parter. Clearly, it's going to take a high level of authorization to get a search warrant like this. So I want you to give us a sense of just like how high up this would have gone. But also, if they go in with a search warrant for these documents, but they see something else, maybe related to the 2020 election, not covered by the search warrant, can they still pick that up?
Great questions. Part one, first of all, the search warrant is just the initial step. It's where we have reasonable grounds to believe that a crime may have been committed. It's not the same as an indictment, and it's certainly not the same as a conviction, where for a conviction to occur, it has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. We are a long way from that, so pump the brakes right here. Now, moving to your second question, that's considered plain view. Now, the search warrant is going to be very restrictive, and it's going to say, in this corner, in this safe, in this room, there is evidence to believe that there might be evidence of a crime. However, if you are executing the search warrant in good faith and you stumble upon something related to January 6th or related to the election in 2021, yes, that can be used in a court of law.
James, let me tap your FBI. Let me tap the whatever instruction you would have received at the academy with regards to the history of the FBI. And the reason why I want to ask you about it is because you are hearing from allies of former President Trump, including sitting members of Congress and the United States Senate, who are talking about the FBI and saying that it's a political organization now. You've got one congresswoman suggesting that the government defund the FBI. It is not a secret. It is part of the record that during the days when J. Edgar Hoover ran the Federal Bureau of Investigation, it was a political organization in that he targeted people that he did not like or people that he thought were threats either to himself or, in his mind, to the government of the United States. And we've seen time and time again, as the records have come forth, targeting of civil rights leaders, targeting of people in Hollywood, whoever he didn't like. Can you explain to our viewers the steps that were taken to clean the FBI up in the wake of Director Hoover's passing and in the years after, where the FBI became the tip of the spear in terms of making sure that, for example, the Ku Klux Klan was eventually wiped out. All the things that the FBI was able to do to sort of cleanse themselves from that history, and to have that accusation hurled now again seems kind of mind-boggling to me. But what do you make of it?
Yeah, it is wholly depressing. Look, it was just a few years ago where the FBI enjoyed favorability ratings, Vlad, of 95% in the U.S. public. And obviously, it's not the same now. Look, going back, let's put this all into context. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover was born in 1895. The FBI began as the Bureau of Investigation in 1908, and Hoover was a 29-year-old kid, if you will, in 1924 when he took it over. When he passed in 1972, he had a 48-year run spanning 8 different presidents, from Calvin Coolidge all the way to Richard Nixon. Congress, rightly, after J. Edgar Hoover passed away, decided to put a 10-year term on FBI directors. Director Hoover did many good things, and he also did some insidious things. And we've hoped that we've advanced the ball and gotten better and better as an agency. Look, the 2016 election brought the FBI back into the crosshairs because of the charges of partisanship or partiality or bias from senior level members. There are 36,000 employees in the FBI, 12,000 FBI agents. I can assure both of you and the viewers of this right now, the vast majority of them are good people, honest brokers. They're following the evidence bereft of fear or favor. Yes, there have been some folks in the upper echelons who put their fingers on the lever. We hope that they've been called to an account. And if there's something involved here, we'll certainly call that out too. I just think it's too early to make a statement right now on where we are. But I'll caution you this, Vlad, we better have the goods. If we don't have the goods here, and it is found that there's no evidence to support any charges, this is not going to be a good look, unfortunately.
You do know your history.
Yeah, that
James
was good.
Gagliano. That was really good.
I wasn't
Thank you.
sure
And I think our audience will have. No, but it's so important that that you sort of lay that timeline out and explain that, and also honestly pointed out that there have been some people, even in recent years, who have been accused of that bias.
Yeah, and I think it's important because we know, with all the misinformation that pops up, with all the manipulation of history and the rewriting of history, people are going to point to that time and say, see, that's what the FBI is all about.
You're definitely going to have people that are going to say, the FBI has always been like this because, they were targeting Malcolm X and Dr. King just because they didn't like what they were asking for, which was, the rights that they are guaranteed under the Constitution.
James Gagliano, we always learn something when we talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.